Thank you for staying with us. You're still watching The Breakfast on Plus TV Africa. Now it's time to move over to the U.S. as Trump seeks to end birthright citizenship with executive order. Former U.S. President, who's now been sworn into office again, has signed an executive order aiming to end birthright citizenship, challenging the 14th Amendment, which guarantees citizenship to anyone born on U.S. soil. The directive instructs federal agencies to deny citizenship to children of non-citizens or temporary visa holders, sparking immediate legal challenges from advocacy groups. The 14th Amendment has been upheld for over 125 years, ensuring citizenship regardless of parents' immigration status. Legal experts argue Trump's order directly violates the Constitution, and lawsuits have already been filed to block its enforcement. Trump also invoked special powers to suspend U.S. asylum laws, authorizing officials to repel and remove immigrants at the southern border, citing a need to stop what he called an invasion. These measures are expected to face prolonged legal and political battles. Joining us this morning to discuss all of this is Biodun Sowunmi, is a public affairs analyst. Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So I know that we're going into the U.S. and birthright, right? A lot of people in Nigeria and other African countries, they move to the U.S. temporarily to give birth, and that's because they've seen it as a way of securing a dual citizenship for their kids, because everybody wants a better life for their kids. And with this, the current president of the United States of America has said, you know, it's an invasion. We do not want people, immigrants here. And I remember even in his first term, you know, he said he was building up a wall against, you know, other countries like Mexico and all of that. But what is your own take on all of this, knowing that time to come now, Nigerians may not be able to go abroad to give birth and have this dual citizenship for their children?
Yes, let me start this way. We need to understand the context of provisions in the U.S. Constitution. It's not meant to encourage bad tourism, but to recognize the fact that there are Americans living in different parts of the world, either working in multinational companies or in military bases outside the country, and those who may be in America one way or the other find themselves having births in America and then ending up going on foreign service. So the basic essence of it is to ensure that they are recognized as Americans is a privilege and a right guaranteed by the Constitution. But in practical terms, we have seen situations which is quite very prevalent now, particularly in relation to Nigeria, where people are heavily, you know, in pregnancy, probably about 6 months, 9 months pregnant, and then end up going to America, not simply because they want to live there, but or to serve America in any capacity or contribute to their national development in any form, but simply just for the purpose of enabling their children to be entitled to be called American citizens. And that has been going on. That's bad tourism. And I think that is what Trump is really, really concerned about, because it's so prevalent. It's not only Nigerians or Africans. You have the Asians doing that.
Yes.
Even people from UK do that also. They leave UK just to have children. The other side of it, which I think Trump has not spoken about, is the cost of those bad delivery. In many cases, people simply don't pay and walk, you know, just simply walk away. In future, they cannot even hold the children responsible because they were not responsible for being given birth to in America. So we have also had cases where some parents who one way or the other found themselves in America being compelled to pay the hospital bills. But in many cases, people have not been able to pay or they have refused to, or they have not gone back to America simply because the purpose is for their kids, you know, to be able to obtain American citizenship. So these are the two major issues, but I think Trump is only concerned about the bad tourism. The problem with Trump is that it runs his own position will violate the Constitution of America because it's simply using a directive. It's not a constitutional amendment. If it's a directive, any directive presidential directive or act of parliament that runs contrary to the provisions of the Constitution will be deemed to be null and void. And I think this is what human rights activists, some liberal Americans are willing to challenge. So look, yes, you have the right to think what you are thinking, but it must be in consonance with the letters and spirits of the American Constitution.
So what are the chances that this might survive? Because I mean, a lot of people are already taking it to the courts and challenging this. So what are the chances that this would just suffice?
Yeah, it's very, very bright prospects of the courts throwing out that directive, simply because it's in violation of the Constitution. You cannot, look, it's standard legal principle anywhere in the world. No directive or any act of parliament, will be superior to the Constitution, because the Constitution has been approved by the people, and therefore the people, the people's decisions are supreme. So even if the issue goes up to Supreme Court, I would expect the Supreme Court to uphold that basic principle of law. So I think many people will feel that this will fail, but we may end up seeing a form of an amendment being proposed, since Trump, the Republicans are in control of the legislature and the Senate. So we may eventually see a form of an amendment being proposed to deal with this issue of child tourism, rather than a broad sweep decree that people who are born on American soil cannot, have
get the citizenship. Yeah. Okay, so how do you think that people are reacting to this, especially Nigerians who probably live in the U.S. or the ones who are even thinking of going there now? What do you think the public perception, not just for Americans, but the entire world, what's the public perception of this? Yes,
in one way, the liberal world, I'll put that, because there's so many people in the world that would also agree with Trump, who believes in nationalism or protectionism. We've seen the way Europe is moving towards the far right. Even in UK, we now have the conservatives, being displaced in several areas by the Nigel Farage, led nationalist party and all that. So therefore, there are quite a lot of people that would support Trump on this. But in many cases, particularly in countries, the major sources of migration to America, Nigeria, India, Pakistan, and some other big countries, Kenya, they probably would disagree with Trump. Now, they will perceive it differently. They will see it as if it's an attack
targeted against,
and they will see it as a mark of racism. Whereas those who agree with Trump would say, look, the basic fear of the far right is that their countries are getting diluted, and within a short time, if they're not careful, the minority population will become majority, and therefore they will not be the major decider of their fate in their country, but rather migrants. So they also have a genuine concern, with a view to see how they can manage that. And basically, their goal is to reject internationalism, to reject globalism, and embark on protective measures to guarantee nationalism. And that's the clash between the Republicans and the Democrats in America. It's about the liberal values of the Democrats against the conservative ideas of the Republicans.
Okay. So I know that in the UK, you don't just have automatic citizenship because you were born on the British soil. It takes a while for you to, I think about 3 years or so, I'm not sure of that number, but it takes a while.
You were permitted for at least 3 years.
Yes, exactly. So isn't there other ways that Trump could have gone this route instead of just saying no more, that's my executive order, it's cancelled?
Well, you are right. This is Trumponomics. We need to understand how Trump thinks and behaves. Trump's behavior is transactional in nature. As far as Trump is concerned, he's going to go, for the jugular, hoping at the end of the day to negotiate and come to a compromise. Trump, maximalist approach to negotiation is what we have seen. Now, he's saying, I'm going to have to do this. In the process of all these issues being argued in court, some other people will see the point of view of Trump, and eventually they may end up with a bipartisan agreement, to change the law and say, yes, you are born in America, you have a right to citizenship, but you must have lived in America for 2 years or 5 years or something. Then they will now come up with a bipartisan agreement. But this is the way Trump approached issues. He would end up settling for something lower than what is hoping to achieve currently. It's his own style of doing business. For Trump, everything is business. It's transactional. He maximizes everything and then only end up coming to negotiate and get a reasonable compromise.
Well, he's a businessman. I mean, he was known for The Apprentice and all of that, and having so many businesses. So I'm sure he's still looking at it from that perspective. But anyways, I want to talk about the birth tourism. A lot of people. I mean, I know someone who had to whip up about $40,000. Just to go give birth and come back. And these are many Nigerians that do that. Just like the UK, when they talked about the whole educational system and how people cannot just come with their families anymore. For this, because most people are, taking monies from Nigeria, isn't going to affect the economy of, the United States, for instance, because a lot of people save their monies to go there to give birth just because they want the other passports of the US. So isn't that going to affect the economy one way or another?
Well, no matter how we look at it, tourism, whether it's bad tourism or any form of tourism, generates economy for any country. Education tourism is there. People go just strictly for educational purposes and all that. Health tourism is there, and it generates economy, money, wealth for the nation destination. Yeah. Now, but in the case of this, if you actually look at the situation for Trump, he does not see the benefits outweighing the disadvantages. Don't forget, when you face Trump is viewing it as an existentialist issue. That is, we will get swarmed, we will no longer be majority, the white race will become minority, and therefore we have folks from different parts of the world, of other races and cultures, dictating, directing, what should happen in America. So for Trump, there's no amount of money lost on that, that would supersede the need to do that. And as far as America is spending so far, hundreds of billions on war in Ukraine, which Trump does not believe in, he thinks the benefit of bad tourism is so minimal for United States. After all, there's no guarantee that every child that's born in America, whether returning to America or actually living there, will end up becoming an Elon Musk or a Bill Gates. There's no guarantee.
Yeah.
So the fact of the matter is Trump is less concerned about issues like that. He's more concerned about his own nationalistic approach and conservative approach to life.
So let's just clarify something. This definitely doesn't affect people who already have their citizenship, right? It's for people who are to come in future, and that's if it sees the light of day anyway.
Yes, Trump is targeting two people. Those who are in the country illegally, to start with. He's not concerned about those who are in America legally. We have to clear that because many people are anxious, so they would revoke people's citizenship. It's not going to happen like that. He's concerned with those who are living in America, largely from Mexico or some Spanish colonies, who are in America. He's more concerned about them than even Nigerians living in America illegally, because Nigerians living in America illegally are not in the millions like the Mexicans. And all that.
True.
So therefore, he's more worried about getting them out of the country. That look, you are not here legally, so you have no business being here. And then the second set of people is new people wanting to come. You remember there was a discussion some weeks ago. I think it involved Vance, J.D. Vance, the Vice President of America now, about the skills required and the nature of the visa to be obtained to be able to come into the country. So if you look at that, they would end up becoming more rigorous in admitting people into America. If you want to migrate, then you must have something you want to offer. If you're an academic, it's fine. You must have something you're offering there. Less concerned. They're not going to stop migration, and no country has succeeded in stopping migration.
Yeah.
It's just that they will impose some other conditions or requirements which people must satisfy, and with a view to curtail, the admission of people who have little or nothing to offer America. And I think those are the two classes of people that Trump is targeting for them. Those in the country legally and those outside the country with little or nothing to offer. America.
Okay, so for Nigerians now, or Africans who obviously have used this as a means for the dual citizenship for their children, what's the other thing that's going to happen now? Are we going to see maybe people moving to other countries? For instance, I know that, I think it's St. Kitts and Nevis or something like that, they do this whole passport thing. There are other countries, other Caribbean countries that could give you this dual citizenship. Are we going to see a wave of people now moving to such countries if America just doesn't work, because those other passports still give you access to, certain amount of countries as well? And what other pathways are people going to be using if they insist on going into the U.S.?
Well, they have other options. Like you said, St. Kitts and Nevis is there. You have Dominican Republic. You have so many countries that if you hold their nationality, you'll be able to enter America. But the fact of the matter is not a right. It's still a privilege. They can always resign that if they notice there is an increase in people moving in from those countries. Don't forget, they can tell the difference. You have Nigerians working in immigration in America, so they know from your accent whether you are actually, from St. Kitts and Nevis, or you are from Dominican Republic, or you are from Nigeria, who has, taken up the citizenship of those countries. In many cases, states have a way of dealing with that. America will not lose anything to say, look, we are not going to allow people from these countries to come in without any form of visa requirement. So there are always options open for the country, and that's a decision for the United States to take. The bottom line at the end of the day is Nigerians have to have some respect for their own country, must be willing to believe in the future of their country. Instead of going about on back tourism, they really need to be here and then believe in the country. Otherwise, what you end up having is you end up having children in those countries, and they're back here. And when they want to go back to America, they are not in a situation, they are not culturally suited to America. Their orientation is totally different from what's in America, and they faced culture conflicts
culture shock.
A couple of years. Absolutely. Cultural shocks will be there, culture conflicts, all manners of issues will be there before they can end up settling that. We should not forget that being an American citizen does not guarantee you any success in life. We should remember the case of Majek Fachek, who was a very popular musician in Nigeria. What happened to him at the end of the day? And he's not the only one. There are so many people like that. There are Americans who have never left America all their lives, living on the streets in America. You have hundreds of thousands of people living in extreme poverty in America compared to Nigeria. So the fact of the matter is we have to believe in our country. We must be willing to build our country together. We must be able to tackle bad governance together in the same way the Americans have done before they can have the country we are all seeking to migrate.
All right. Honestly, I think the onus is on our leaders to ensure that we have a better nation. Because, of course, if Nigeria was flourishing, if Nigeria was the land of the bold and the free, like the Americans would say, most people would not be looking for greener pastures. Most people would not be thinking of how to secure, a passport for their children, because your own country is already being put in order. And I think right now our leaders just need to do more to ensure that people are not looking for ways to migrate. Instead, people are staying here, putting their hands on the plow and making Nigeria a better place. Biodun, I want to say thank you so much for coming. It's always a pleasure having you on our program. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Have a wonderful day. We've been speaking with Biodun Sowunmi. He's a public affairs analyst, and we've just been looking at the fact that President Trump, has decided to end birthright citizenship with an executive order. We'll go on a short break now. Rather, this is where we have to wrap it up on the show. Pardon me. This is where we have to end the breakfast this morning. Thank you so much for having the breakfast with me. My name is Rume Paulson. I'll see you again tomorrow. Have a wonderful day. Good morning.